Hello, everybody. Welcome to this little interview, guys. I would like to introduce Brian Atchison from PICS ITech. And Brian is a really special guy for us because he's really an early adopter of everything. So I like the type of people who don't think, just act and do stuff, and don't overthink. Just let's try out and figure out. And last week we get a really great conversation with BJ Former and Brian about how Brian is doing the sales and how he's applying our tools with their existing stuff. And I wanted to have this interview with him that just let us know and a little bit educate us about the best practices they are using right now. So Brian, just introduce yourself a little bit and just have some fun here.
Yes, hey, thanks for the introduction. Once again, Brian Atchison from PICS ITech. I'm the Vice President of Sales for the company. We have an inside-outside model. We're located in New Jersey with a presence, I'd say, from the East Coast of the United States, delivering MSP services. So that's kind of a little bit of our background. We've been in business for over 20 years and been really focusing on the MSP business for the last 8 years.
Perfect. And can you just tell me a little bit of the critique of your existing sales process? So you've been working on the sales a long time. What would you see that you wanted to change a little bit? Because of course you are adopting lots of stuff from us. What was the original problem you wanted to solve?
Yeah, so the original problem was, we were acquiring companies that needed more than just infrastructure IT support.
Mm-hmm.
We were selling an IT leadership role, and that role was, it was known in the industry as the VCIO, and that term really became a commodity, with MSPs as our market has started to shift. And the challenge that we were finding is there wasn't any kind of tangible process or delivery for that role. So, it became times where it was inconsistent of what we were doing with customers. There wasn't really a storyline. And we found that as we were growing our company, we really had to have some kind of dedicated focus or storyboard that we could walk the customers through in the course of a contract to kind of give them some deliverables. I mean, that was the key is, as opposed to them telling us what to do and, getting involved in projects, we kind of needed to have a little bit better roadmap plan. So when we went out and came across Danish, one of the things that excited us was, we do a good job of acquiring new customers. We were selling the IT leadership role in our contracts, maybe not delivering it the way we wanted to, but still we're providing the value add to our customer. This was an avenue where we felt we could adopt those tools and train some internal staff to really run the process of being the IT leader or consultant for that business. So, we were excited about the plan and the tools that were already defined out, and I didn't have to recreate it. It was kind of a process where my consultant could kind of go through training, and hopefully, we can really start to define the edges of our delivery in IT consulting.
Yeah, it's really nice, and what I think is you already get these stories out, right? So you are a big talker guy. You can really outgoing and everything like that. But and what I'm finding a challenge for most people, how you start the conversation, and as you start the conversation, as you screw it up right there. And what you do basically right now to start the right conversation. So start something which start to give you to the position which can redefine you from the rest of the people around.
Yeah, it really depends who I'm meeting with. How I first shake their hand and the vibe I get off of them is really where I'll take the conversation. You mentioned I'm outgoing. I do well with somebody that's aggressive and outgoing, and we have great conversation. If I'm meeting with somebody that has a little bit more dry
Mm-hmm.
Personality, I might take the approach a little differently. But I usually open up our call with this a little bit of an icebreaker, something to say, whatever it might be, the standard 30-second, about the government, about the weather, about something. And then usually I joke about my inside sales team, right? So I have, one thing to mention is, 80% of our business comes from inside sales telemarketing, which is not always seen in the industry. And we have developed a process for generating leads. And typically my inside salespeople are calling these prospects for 6 months, a year, and such. So usually my conversation, my joke is about that person that made the meeting because they know that person. Like in my case, Jim would be one of my guys. when I go in there, they think I'm Jim sometimes because they've been talking to him for the last 6 months. And I'll question, hey, how was your experience with my inside sales guy? He's pretty persistent. You see a little bit about how we operate internally with our processes. Give me some feedback. And then all of a sudden, one of the things I learned about that I think is valuable in the conversation is, I let them learn a little bit about how my process is delivering and how my company operations are set up, so they can kind of think that I'm more than just a fly-by-night company. Yeah. Hey, we've been in business for a while. Hey, here's how we do it. By the way, here's how we do our sales process. What do you think about it?
Wow.
So, I get them engaging a little bit in that, and then I just turn the conversation. Tell me about your business. And I say, not so much what the IT's about, but usually I'll do some research ahead of time. I'll know if they had some private equity funding or something lately. And I'll say, tell me a little bit about your 5-year goal. What are you guys trying to do? And they just start talking. And it really, the conversation starts off very much them talking about their business. But I found that my best icebreaker, once again, is kind of getting them to see how I operated to get in the door. I didn't just knock on the door. We had a process to do that.
Yep, perfect. And what I like in that approach is you start to get a case study to talk about business. Because what you said,
right.
Process, sales, persistency, this is about how you operate. And it's easy to drive the talk to how you do that, what's your issue, what about the sales and whatever. And usually what I see is like people can get trapped. And how you avoid this trap, like, okay, Brian, I'm going to talk about my business, but what do you do as an IT guy? So why you are different than the others? Before I opening that.
My opening is, once again, I want to reframe them. So they'll say, well, enough about that. Tell me about your IT. I have a couple servers here. I have a couple desktops. What can you do for me? And I said, well, first of all, I joke and say, I'm not an IT guy. I said, you might think that's pretty funny, but I don't know how to fix your computers. And they kind of look at me like strange eyes. And I say, well, yeah, I don't. And I said, but that's the best thing about this whole thing. And they started laughing. I said, so know that this conversation we're going to have it's not going to be technical because I don't want to talk that detail, and nor do you want to get that detail, right? He's
exactly.
like, yeah, okay. And I just get into not so much what we do. I then just talk about a story. Well, what makes us different? Well, by the way, do you know this customer down the street here? Here was their challenge. Here's the type of business vendor they had. We were able to do X, Y, and Z. Over the last quarter, last 6 months to drive their business, and I'll probably tell 2 or 3 stories right there in a row. And then I'll step back and say, does that make sense? We could talk about the IT differences, but, I really want to understand about your business so I can kind of align what our core is and our companies are. Maybe tell you a little bit about what we've done for other businesses. And I always tell them, I said, understand technology and people are just a way to create an action plan. It's about policies, about procedures, about accountability. It's about, consistency. I said, and that's what gives you guys your best results, So I said, know this, I'll find the right technology to deliver the service. Understand that. There's many options out in the industry, but we have to first define really what we need to accomplish. Like, what are we trying to fix, or what's the business challenge? And I said, if we can focus on that, that's great. And sometimes I say, if we're not going to focus on that, well, you know what, sir, I appreciate the time, we're probably not a good fit. Mm-hmm. And then I kind of negative sell. I'll negative sell in the first 20 minutes and say, you know what, we're probably not a good fit. If you're not thinking like I'm thinking, it's probably not a good fit. I don't want to waste your time. But did you know I work with this customer here, and he had the same thought process you did, and here's where I helped him out. And so I always found the best way for me to approach it is tell them some stories that they can relate to with their customers. When they tell me they're fine and they don't need it, let them have that and say, okay, I'm not a fit. So now it's not a sales call anymore. I'm not selling you. You're not a fit for me. Maybe I'm too big for you, Mr. Customer. I can't, you're not going to follow our lead. But the other guy I talked to had the same problem, but you know what? Now we're doing this for him. And then all of a sudden they're back engaged in the conversation again because I gave him an out to show me the door. I'm not a fit. He could always tell me, okay, thanks for your time. See you later. But they never do because they're intrigued to know really what I'm talking. Why did I just tell him to walk out the door? So, it's some of those things in the first meeting is really just about getting some validity into who I am when I'm walking in the door, that I'm not a vendor just going to sell you email or sell you a server. It's not going to be that quick. We have to figure this out together. Does that make sense, Dana?
This totally makes sense because that's what I wanted to somehow get out is if you start this conversation, it's open up the options for you later on. But if you just start, yeah, we do this, and you try to go back to your comfort zone, servers and patches, and I can control the conversation, I think, because this is a subject matter of me, not the prospect. Right? I don't want to go to this business stuff because probably I'm weak there, and I'm out of the comfort zone. But I think that's the reality. If you are just asking the question, if you are kind of curious, there is nothing to hide because you don't know their business. That's why you are there. That's why you try to figure out what's their problem, and the problem. Now you can tell stories about your expertise or something like that, and it still can be a little bit.
Yeah, and that's.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I said, and that's a good point you mentioned. The biggest challenge I've seen, and I've gone through it in my earlier stages, is that if you become curious, that's a great way to say it. Curiosity means I'm interested in your business. What you cannot do, though, is when somebody tells you a business challenge and confides in you to tell you that, you cannot 1 minute later try and fix their problem.
Yeah.
So that's where people get into the catch. As soon as somebody tells them a problem, they think that's an opportunity to sell, and then they try and sell something to fix that problem too early in the process.
Yeah. Okay.
You have to just build up pain, and that's okay. If you were talking to me, Danish, and I said, my challenge is my sales department's this, and you say, you know what, I got this company that make telemarketing calls. You should buy them right now. Well, you just contradicted your sales call because you told me before you're going to help me figure this out. Yet you're already selling me in 30 minutes. What's going on here? So, understand how to leverage the pain, and don't be too quick to sell to the pain points they tell you.
Exactly, and I like it because, what's the goal of the first meeting? What's the one goal?
The one goal is to get the second meeting.
Exactly.
That's my goal.
Exactly. Get the second meeting. And therefore, selling the second meeting is create what I usually say is creating enough void, enough curiosity for their end that that's something here. I need to follow this whole thing. Something going on here. I'm not sure what it is, but this is a smart guy. This is something I have to be on the top of this game. Even it's not really urge, but that's really interesting. And then usually when you go through this thing, what usually. How you get the next meeting? So what is in the next meeting? So what you are selling on the first meeting to get the next meeting?
Yeah, so I'll tell you a quick story. Yesterday, I had a sales call. I met with the CFO of an organization, more than 200 users, and he said, they have an MSP now. I really like this. Why don't you come out and meet with my executive leadership team? There's 5 of us, and you can present to them. And I said, whoa, I don't want to do that. Why would I do that? I'm going to come in for an hour, tell them how great I am. They're going to either like me or not like me, and then what do I do next? Now the next step is in their hands. Now I'm chasing them to close them. It's way too fast. So I learned, and I actually picked up some more detail, Danish, with your tools. Is my first meeting is to get a second meeting, get them to like us, and understand that we could be different than what they have now, and give them homework. That was my missing T. I need to give them homework. You know what I found out? If they're willing to engage and do my homework, they're interested in making a change. If they don't, they're not going to buy. Don't waste my time. They're not willing to give me do the homework and help me make this decision, then it's really not the right time. So then we'll just say, maybe it's not a good time. Let's follow up in a little bit, month or so. But I believe, so in this meeting yesterday, I pushed back and said, I'm not ready to present because here's what's going to happen. This is my story I told him. I said, I'm going to have the CEO, a CFO, everyone's going to come in this meeting. I don't even know their perspective of IT. I don't understand what's going to make them what they feel is important to a vendor. I don't understand the challenges they have every day. So they're all going to see me, and they're either going to like me or they're going to hate me, but I'm not going to win your business because I'm not going to be hitting on the pain point of somebody that's in that meeting because I don't know. I said, or they are going to be so overwhelmed with what I'm going to do that they're not going to be knowledgeable enough to make the right decision, so they're going to flounder and the thing's going to stall. So I said, I'd rather do this. How about this, Mr. Customer, Mr. Prospect? I'm going to send you an ITCQ. I'm going to send it to all these executives. Give me all their names, and I'm doing a nice little intro email. I want all 5 guys to fill it out. And the interesting part about that is they're all going to have different answers, which is great. So then I'll reconvene back and do a little workshop with you in our next meeting, not a presentation, to show you how dysfunctional your approach to IT is because everybody has a different perspective and everybody is in the loop. I said, so there's enough reason why you need to hire us. You need somebody to be the core leader in between all those areas to keep it together. I said, and then I'll share with you how you're all different. I'll share with you what we need to be focused on, and I'll kind of go through that whole ITCQ canvassing. And the point to that, though, is if I can make the other owners really think they're not fine and show areas where there's deficiencies and then show where I can make small leverage wins in their business, I think I have better buy-in opportunity when I go to present what I'm all about.
Okay.
So that gives me, one, I've got them to do homework, which means they're serious about me. Two, I've gotten the pain of all the 5 executives I'm presenting to from a different perspective. And third, it really shows that I can run a meeting. It'll prove to them that I can run a consulting meeting, I can run a workshop meeting, and I can actually be the leader they need. And it's not me selling them. It's me regurgitating their information and helping them all as a team get on the same page. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Brian, and my question that just let me know inside a little bit of the process. Like you had, we covered that before. So you had like 5 executives. You sent over the 5 executives the questionnaire. How many completed that?
The last one I had 2 completed.
2 completed, so not all of them. Okay.
And 3, the third one started it and got out halfway.
Yeah, and so I think that's the reality some way, right? It's like that's the case. And now how you handle that you have 2 people engaged but 3 is not.
That's funny, yeah. So that was my approach. I went into that company and I went in to meet with them all again to review it. And the first thing I went in there, and one of them didn't fill it out, was the CEO. And I'm a pretty brash guy. And I walked in there and I said, hey, I'm here. Appreciate your time. You know, let me tell you real fast. I was there 2.5 hours this day presenting, talking to them. And I said, wow, I noticed that this person, that person filled it out. But John, you didn't complete my survey. Is there a reason? Well, I didn't have enough time. That's a shame. I said, really, I'm trying. You guys said it's important for you to make changes and you're trying to get your IT structure in place. You know, it was really important that you would kind of give me that information to help you move your company forward. And not that I insulted him, but I made him feel like this is important, guys. Yep. The reason you're in the situation you are right now is because you're not paying attention to it. Yeah. That's why you have these problems.
For the first place.
And you just proved to me that you don't care about it. Luckily, I had this.
I get it. Okay.
Luckily, I had the CFO complete it. The CFO completed it. Somebody else completed it. But because they completed it, I was able to use their information in my meeting, which was great. But what it showed is some employees thought it was great, did it, which they made a point as well to say, guys, the link was out there. Brian sent it. I don't know why you didn't fight it. So it created this little cohesiveness in our meeting that it was an exercise that they should have done. Because I mean business. I don't mean just selling you guys a computer. I mean this is what's going to make a difference in your company. And I tell you what, when I was going through that canvas and I was going through the plans, they were paying attention. They realized that their CFO and their operations manager had totally drastic answers to that ITCQ. And we had to talk through each one of them. Why do you think this? Why do you think this? Where's the commonality? Where should we really be, guys? And it was great conversation, but it just proved to the owner of that company why he needs me, because I was able to show him that those people that he empowered to make a decision aren't even on the same page.
That's funny. That I think that's really powerful thing. What I getting what you are saying is like you took a leadership role immediately, right?
Yep.
So first of all, like have a leadership role. Somebody make things happen. The second thing, you don't really need every completed questionnaire. If you have only one, doesn't matter. I think the ITCQ you are using like a hook to have talking through some items, which makes relevance, right? So it doesn't matter who completed it, what's the score. It's basically ask the question: does it make sense? Does it make sense? How to move forward. So I really like that ideas that like in judo, you are using the client's energy against them. Right? Because like what you do is, really you don't have time for that. You don't really understand the questions. So now, how your company is going to be more competitive in the next century or this, next couple of years? If you don't have time and no resource. And that's creating the void that, that's the void where I have to come as a virtual CIO or consultant or something like that. That's a good point.
Yep.
All right, and what's next?
Yeah. So what's next?
Really
so typically then I present to them our solution. I have a nice 72 slide presentation. I drag them through. And really, it's all about the process, what they can expect from our company. So it starts out with the history of the company, some accolades we've gotten, a little bit about me, my background, a little bit about our customers. I like to introduce, that whole what was perceived as a modern office environment,
Yep.
when MSP 1.0 was around. I like to tell them, here's why we were all in business, but by the way, here's why we should be in business in 2015 because of these changes in technologies. So I kind of show them examples how other industries have adopted technology. A great example is, McDonald's going away without the tellers. Now you go on a screen, you punch a button to order your lunch. There's companies leveraging technology out there, to better their business. And I talk about how that's the direction they need to think about. And I always say, who's the innovator in your market? If you guys are in printing or if you're in manufacturing, are you an innovator or a follower? What are you guys doing? How are you going to differentiate yourself? I said, and I always joke that I say, the younger generations, more tech savvy, they might be a small business now, but they're going to have better margin and better leverage with technology to overtake your customers. I said, because the customer's demands a lot better, faster now. And, I kind of just, if you're going to keep doing it the old way, you're going to get the same results you have now, but those results are going to stop eventually, because somebody smarter is going to come behind you and take that business.
Yeah, and for example,
it's kind of a...
Sorry, Brian. I think the most powerful way of doing that, if you have an example which they feel, like, do you use this service? Yes. Why you are not using that other service which you used 10 years ago? Why you are using Amazon? Because it's fast, I can check it out. Why you are not going to the grocery store or the other store to buy whatever? Because it's slow. So this is, you needed fasting and you get it. And you not going back where you've been loyal for 20 years for the furniture shop or the Best Buy or whatever. You order it online. That's one example. Yep. And they have to say out loud that their approach and their buying habits has changed. So now think about your clients buying your service. Why he's going to not go to somewhere else? And that's interesting. So that's always like, and that's like not being pushy, but asking these questions which matters, right? And that's like, that's talking. Cool.
And that's a good point. I mean, it might be the first or second meeting. I think if we're going to be IT leaders and we're selling IT leadership, you have to be presenting and talking with a sense of urgency and conviction. You have to let them know that and be scared. You have to be willing to tell an owner or somebody, this is how it is. Because that's okay. That's what they want at the end of the day. If you're really going to sell these expensive MSP 2.0 services with IT leadership and consulting, they want to make sure you're strong enough to really be the person they can look to as an executive in their company. If you're not, then you're already too weak to run that role. So, don't think that you're asking him hard questions or not. A lot of times they're going to like that challenge because they realize as an outside vendor, they can get somebody they otherwise want on their leadership team in your service. So I use that a little bit, I would say, poignancy or aggressiveness to kind of ask those tough questions because I feel the guys I go against, they dance around those questions, and I'll just flat out tell them, here's how it has to be based on an experience or story, right? Remember, you have to combine that piece with a story of a problem you fix somebody else, right? You can't just blur things out. You have to draw it back around to a story of a company they may or may not know and how you were able to do it. Because that'll solidify that.
Brian, what I'm thinking here is really kind of interesting. I had always like different salespeople. I get services, I get approached by salespeople and things like that, and I get this aggressive mentality as well. I'm not saying you aggressive. I'm meaning like some type of aggressivity or firm, things like that. And I really like this approach if only one thing is there. One thing. What I see, the intent of the guy is to help me. If I sense that the intent of being pushy and aggressive to sell something, I totally get my shields up. Right? So what I'm thinking is what you do and what they see based on this process is that you are pushing me, you are challenging me, you are thought-provoking, but because I see your intention, is to help me, and I accept this. I'm playing that role. But if I see from the sales guy that now he want to trick me out to say something he can, use against me after that, I'm holding back. Do you know what I mean here?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, and don't take the word I get all the time in my meetings is passion.
Passion. Okay.
So don't confuse aggressiveness with passion.
Yeah, exactly. That's
there's two different things there. Yeah. So I got that yesterday in the meeting with the company that were 200 users. Is the reason I got the next meeting is because I appreciate your passion for what you do, because I really do believe it. And don't take that as being snarky and aggressive and telling them here's how you got to do it. It's just more passionate about what I believe.
Yeah, that's
and
perfect.
I think the belief in the process is contagious.
Yeah, so that's the passion. So when you see the passion, they see your intent to figure out. It's
Exactly.
I get it. So I think that's perfect. Cool. So basically, you had this first meeting. You get the second meeting. Basically, what was your initial? So you did your presentation. Anything on the presentation which you changed over these couple of months based on this MSP2 stuff? Was it something like what you highlight now?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so the biggest problem in the industry is everybody sells VCIO. That's an MSP, right? It's all commoditized, I say. So one of the things I used right from one of your slides was that circle matrix. Was the VCIO in the red box, and then how I'm going to move them into the CEO area and be that green line or that circle around. I felt that was a great visualization of my role in their company when they hire us. And I put two of those circles on the same slide. And one is, I have eyeglasses, if you will, and it says cost. The other one is eyeglasses and revenue. And I asked the customer, do you think of IT as a cost or a profit center? And 9 times out of 10, they think of it as, if they're a small company, they think of it as a cost. It's a cost. I have a monthly fee. I got to pay this guy all the time. And one of the things I use that slide for is really to get them to think about how IT generates revenue and improves processes and improves operations and sales, and how it's a cost that you have to have. It's not, don't think of me as how you're going to try and cut 20% or 10% of your services every year to be lean. You can't do that in IT. You have to leverage it. So I get them thinking about the two, and I ask them, where are you at? Where do you think about it at? And it's a great conversation that I lead them through. And then right on that same slide, I'll talk about, how do you make a hiring decision in your typical day-to-day? I said, here's a great example. You have no internal IT staff. Correct. You have a CIO. No. Okay. Do you have salespeople? Yes. Can we all agree they make X dollars a year? Yes. You have accounting. You have human resources. You have all that stuff. Can I pull the plug in your server and all those people work? No. Okay. Why don't you have a dedicated person you pay salary to every year, every month to take care of this? Well, so the outside vendor does it. Right, but if delivering a service to your customer is so important, you hire these designers and engineers and accounting people, sometimes 6 figures. How come you don't put the emphasis of that cost on a resource? I said, so think of me as hiring an employee that's going to deliver services to your customer. To your customer. Think of that. Would $1,000 for that resource? Probably would, because you already do it right now in human resources. You already do it in accounting. Let's do it in IT. Just so happens I'm not going to be on your payroll, but think of me as an employee and a employee cost. Go through that same process of how you would hire. Interview me. Would you interview Brian as your CIO? Would you interview PICS as your CIO? And what would you pay that resource? You pay me whatever that number would be. That's what I'm asking for in my service contract. Just so happens I have X amount of people behind me that are going to help deliver it to you as my customer. But I said that's what you guys have to start thinking right now, because that role of that person is what generates you revenue in the next 10 years. Yeah. The ability for you to move with the times, adopt new technology, become leaner. I always say, people don't make profitability. It's process and accountability, right? If I hire 100 salespeople and they all do their own little thing and nobody does anything, I have a high payroll. If I hire 5 sales guys, 5 inside sales guys, some project designs, and they all have their own job and they all follow a process, my metrics are much better. So I said, sometimes more people is not good. Just doing it smarter is the way to do it. Make better margins and better money, more money. So, I'm kind of rambling here, kind of the ideas here, but My focus is to make them think that, yes, I'm going to cost as much as the person they're hiring.
Brian,
Let's just know that. I'm not $500 a month, guys.
yeah, exactly. And you get like an example of an employee, or you made some joke the other day that you asked that who was the last hire of you? It was a truck driver or something like that. I remember. What was the story? How you pitch this truck driver versus VCIO in the same salary kind of thing? Do you remember that?
Yeah, very similar to that. Is I don't remember the exact story per se, but the goal is to make sure they know that they hire these people, for $65,000, $85,000, $100,000 to come in and run their business. Yet they don't put that same emphasis on the vendor running their IT.
Yeah.
And when I talk to a CFO, he has to think of it like that. He can't think about changing the vendor to reduce cost. He can't think about why I'm $18,000 more. I won a company business. I went up against five vendors. They paid $18,000 a year more. Well, that's not much, but it is. For some reason, they hired us for $18,000 or more because they saw value. It's not about the price. If they see value, the point is they're hiring those employees already, guys. They're already hiring them. They're paying sales guys and stuff. They're already doing it. If you can make them see you as an employee that benefits their business, they will hire that rock star and that champion.
Yeah, and I think that's this kind of tunnel vision what the CEO has, like IT is a cost. And if you can open up the conversation about, okay, but if we change this role, and if we leverage the sales guy, if you leverage this guy, if you leverage that guy, you don't need to hire 3 other people, which you would hire now. Or sorry about that, how that this emphasis like do more with less, keep the same head count and do twice as much output, because we have process here, create and analyze what they do and make them better. It's really a lot of opportunities. Okay, so we saw the vision, Brian, they get it. The CEO is like, oh yeah, I need that. So what the hell the service I'm going to buy? How we make it in a practical term, create an offer, or so what's the next thing? Because I see a lot of people get to this kind of point, but they can't close the deal because it's too long. They don't really so that's some issues about getting there focused and things like that. So
one of the things I forgot to mention is in my first I'm not sure if it's the right thing to do or not, but I give them a budget of our full service offering. I don't tell them what I'm doing about it, but in our conversations, I find the right point where I'll ask some questions that determine my cost. Yep. I'll ask some indirect questions, and in my head, I can formulate what my cost for support is. And typically in that first hour, I like to get the money out of the way. Hey guys, it's I hear what you're telling me. Understand, I'm like $85,000 a year. How's that feel? I don't know what you're paying now, nor do I really care what you're paying now. I mean, because once again, I don't want to be compared to what they have. I'm different. I'm not the same thing, so I don't even care what you're paying.
Okay.
In order for me to deliver what you need, this is what it's going to cost. How's that budget look? 80 to 90,000. You okay with that? And they start talking, and they're like, well, what's that really include? Well, it includes your guys. We're going to do everything for you, and just know that the responsibility then becomes PICS ITech. Just know that. I mean, we can go into the details later, but I need to make sure that you can budget our services even before we go any further. And there are conversations I like to get out of the way just because if the guy says, you know what, I only have $100,000 budget. There's nothing I can do to sell him and spend more money. I mean, maybe I can, but there's no way he's going to be able to get me an extra $20,000 or $30,000 a year that's not there. So I might change my approach. To what I'm going to kind of lead him through our process. But somebody, once I get $85,000 or $100,000 out of the line, he didn't throw me out the door yet. Then I go through my process. Then once I go through, the presentation and talking through it, then I like to bring out another resource. So once again, this whole time, they're talking to me, right? Who else is behind my company? So, I might bring out Terry, one of the owners of the company, excuse me, and have him come on site, and he'll meet with the same people while I'm there, but he might ask some different questions. So I like to introduce, some more seniority into the conversation. Terry brings a little bit different perspective than me. I mean, I could be perceived as that fast-talking sales guy, whereas Terry could be more of the technical and analysis. So we play well off each other, and they get to hear his perspective. And then I let him, let's do a walkthrough. Let's go through your environment. Show me all your people. Introduce me to people. I want to get engaged, and now we're all getting engaged of what's happening, and we're asking more questions. Now Terry's asking different questions that I might have asked. So now they're comfortable. They're not just hiring Brian, in the first couple meetings, Terry's there. And sometimes I bring on a third guy, kind of to show that we have more depth than just me in the company. And then, then from there, typically we'll get into, all right, you already know my cost, or hey, here's my real cost based on what I've found. And then usually we go through contracts. So, in this scenario with this company I've gone through this process with, your new process with, our go, no-go is on Friday. I haven't given them any contracts. I've only given them what the cost is going to be as a budget. I need this much budgeted. And that's what it is. No, I feel there's no use giving contracts until they're ready to sign. They have to, one, believe I'm in the right tool service. Two, make sure I have budget. Then if they do, the contract's not an issue. It is what it is.
That's really interesting.
Service contract, they review and they sign it.
I learned that in sales there is like a yellow light you see when you go to the car. When you see a yellow light, what you do? In your driving, what you do?
Speed up.
Speed up.
Speed up.
If you do that in sales, that's not going to work. You have to stop immediately and wait the light to turn to green. So because it's going to backfire. So what you do is basically you have to tackle the budget problem before that we don't really know exactly what is going to be there, but I see all the problems. You have to be committed to invest on something. It doesn't matter. It's not the end figure. It's just investment. And see it as an investment, because after that you can, the bits and pieces and the service and what's included, it could be from 85, it could be like 60 or 100. It doesn't really matter, but it's not going to be like 20 grand or 30. And if you just jump into this stuff, jump out, and you start the bits and pieces, the whole process will be endless. You are going to push lots of effort, lots of scenarios or whatever. Because that was the yellow light. They didn't really commit it, right? So I really like this approach. So so if it's not a big secret, usually how many client you were able to close with this kind of process? If it's a secret, don't tell me. Just I would like to see that.
It's not a secret. This process, honestly, I've probably just really started diving into the Danish. I'll call it the Danish process, where I'm using the ITCQ and stuff. It's probably just been a handful of prospects right now, but I do see the different conversations we're having, and I see that there's value because in a sales call the next step is always the hardest thing. How do you get the next step? How do you keep it moving? So I feel like using your process gives me more tools to engage, give homework, and get it moving through the process. So this customer by Friday, which is tomorrow, I'll know go no go, would be a great testament. They were the first customer I pitched the new Danish offering to with the word ITC.
Wow.
The first one. So if it's 100% if they close, right? So
cool. So
actually,
that's what
we're hoping for.
Yeah. And the other thing, like what you are shooting for, is really. I usually not suggest for people to shooting the big thing up front because it's too risky. Usually, my suggestion is that you have this issue right now. Let's do this issue, and I'm going to show you how we work and demonstrate the value on this project. And the sales process is going to be it's going to be like a paid process, because what we do and pick some of these items which you call like quick wins. You pick 3 or 4 quick wins. You know how to do that. Your people is trained. It's really shiny and everything. You can go there and demonstrate that how you work. And I think for most people, like what I usually ask, like you have a wife, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Was it in the third meeting when you asked her for marry you? So was it the third meeting when you were asking her to marry you? Probably not, right?
No, I waited 5 years.
Yeah, that was a couple of quick win projects like a dinner here and whatever to make it happen, right? So I see that because the mentality of the managed services, the 100% or 0%, right? So Brian, think about that. You cannot really go into the company side and just manage half of the servers or half of the workstations, right? You take all or you can't take. So this mentality of hunting and I have to win everything and the big win, it's going to sidetrack your VCIO stuff, because for VCIO it's not the case. Fortunately, you know what? You don't need to hire me on an ongoing basis as a big thing. let's start with this project, that project, and then to the next step, and then to the next step as their maturity and understanding is growing. So I think your closing ratio will be much higher, even 100%, if you just pick what they need, close it really quickly, second, third meeting, start working, and then you are going to get all these opportunities together. But in your case, you want to close the MSP traditional stuff as well, so that's why you want to shoot this for this big thing, which is like, to be honest, when they have a really mature MSP, you don't really have other choice. You have to compete with the service level you have, and you have to say, the guys have to leave. So basically, that's your approach. But keep in mind that changing a vendor who is doing okay is not really easy. If they are doing shitty job and they are looking for other vendor, it's okay. But you have to really, really outwin the current provider to be able to ask them to, change the passwords, change this whole thing, get rid of the people, get rid of what they have, which probably was okay. So I see that a kind of risky move. How do you think that, Brian? Because still, PICS, I know that you are putting this VCI and the MSP together as a bundle, which is not, on my end, is like a little bit of questionable, but I don't know how you see this strategy working.
No, you bring up a good point. It's more of a business consultant, I feel, as opposed to an IT leadership role, because once again, those MSPs have a VCIO already that they're delivering, so you have to still do something that's different, right? If I walk into an MSP and say, hire me as an IT leader, well, they're gonna, thanks for the quick wins. I have a guy now that should be doing this for me. So they sometimes bringing in somebody on above more cost for that person, where they already have it as part of their offering, brings questions up that, well, maybe I don't have the right vendor because they're not delivering this for me. Yep. So that's why the conversation turns into replacing the whole vendor. Yep. But you bring up a good point on, some project quick wins. If they have some stalled projects or they have some stalled areas where they need to get fixed, this challenge, being able to go in there and consult with them. In some cases, work with the MSP to do that. It's just a different approach, and I can appreciate that approach. To get yourself in the door, it's just, it's something that we struggle with in terms of, one, resources to be able to deliver that, because right now we have one VCIO or one IT consultant. So we usually allow that person for our traditional MSP business. Yeah, but, but it is definitely maybe a separate revenue stream that makes sense.
Exactly. Brian, so what you do, for example, you can do ad hoc VCIO services, let's say project management, picking all these items, do weekly meetings. It could be really ad hoc. It's not that, ongoing service. So you can step a budget, pay me $1,000 per month, and you are going to get a yearly annual planning session. You are going to like a quarterly planning session. I distribute the work for the project managers. I collect all the issues. I brief you every month, and I'm going to do this lean leadership role. Does it make sense? Yeah, it's not a big deal. Let's start with that. Of course, after the quarterly plan, we'll see nothing is moving forward. Why? Because this guy is not a project manager. He doesn't have time. All right, so what's your suggestion? Our next package, like it's the $2,000 package, it helps you to get more resource on that. Okay, nice, upgrade to the $2,000 package. $2,000 package, they fill up, and then the next quarter or a year later, I need more. Of course you need more, that's the next package, which is like $3,000 or $4,000. So what you do is basically you start the next steps, what they feel, and just lead them to buy more of your services. That's the thing. And that's really easy to do because you generate the next steps. If you generate lots of stuff from the annual plan, something has to happen. Nobody's doing anything, they committed, what's going on? I'm not the responsible as a VCIO because you chosen this package. This package covered that. It doesn't cover that one. If you want, let's cover this one. That's a different package. So that's how you can put together. Does it make any sense?
It does.
Because that gives you the chance that you can close every deal because you close a small thing, and your goal will be the proactive customer development, that how fast you are able to increase your market share in this company, right? How you're able to move that really forward. So thank you very much, Brian. Anything to add for this thing? I really enjoyed this conversation actually, so I can keep moving. But
it's good. The only thing to add is when I first came on, was kind of trying to understand how it makes sense to my business. I mean, I think the one thing that's important to you is just take the ideas and try to apply them to your everyday. Don't try and change what you do, because when you try to make a full change, you end up not doing any of it. And that was my challenge. Is I was trying to make a complete change and trying to understand it. And then what happens, a month goes by and I haven't done anything yet. So I found little, use that word quick wins. I use quick wins in your program to apply it to my day-to-day, where then I became more comfortable about it. And the other thing I'd like to point out is, don't wait for your VCIO to be ready. Just go sell it. I hear a lot of guys say, we're not ready to deliver yet. Well, you get the first customer, and they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Just go sell it.
And you are going to have the pressure for that and the motivation. I like what you were saying. It's really, I haven't told to you, but what we created is a kind of bottleneck questionnaire for our thing. That means you get a little questionnaire and you can complete the questionnaire, and you are not focusing the everything. You are focusing on what's the three thing which is a bottleneck right now. Having a first meeting, or closing the meeting, or getting the second meeting, and just fix that. Totally what you are saying.
Yeah.
And when you fix that, you get the next bottleneck, which is going to be something else. So I totally understand what you are coming from and where you are coming from, and we try to give you a tool that I have a business issue where I can go to the tools and everything to make it happen, because I see the same. People are overthinking, thinking, and not acting. And they are spending time and things like that. No. Have a big vision and just pick what's the next. Same with the client. Don't shoot for the moon. Pick the next bottleneck, and then you are able to grow up the business. So awesome, Brian. Thank you very much for your wisdom and everything. Yeah. And it's like I need you guys to talk and make it real, because like I'm a kind of guy with my perspective, a little bit theoretical sometimes. So I want to see how people adopt these things, and how you learn it. So thank you very much for giving these insights, and cross my finger for Friday. We should ring the bell, something like that when you close the deal. But actually that's
we should pour the beer on video. There we go.
Cool. Thank you, Brian.
All right, Dash, I appreciate your time.
See you. Thank you.